but then you always have to go back to that belief and the reason why you did it in the first place. And that why is really important. And you can't forget that, because when times are hard, you've always got to go back to that and remember why you did it. And it almost gives you that extra bit of fuel.
Welcome to Bigger Than the Hustle podcast, where I bring you real conversation with entrepreneurs about life outside business to see how they live their lives. Every week we deep dive into the energies, the disciplines, the habits, the mindsets, which make them successful in their life, which in turn makes them successful in their business. Now today I've got an old friend of mine, Bharat. He's a money guy, so we're going to deep dive a little bit into that, and then obviously other aspects of his life which turned him into, quite a decent bloke as well. So Baz, welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Surviving, as I
said. And thriving, hopefully.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Good. So if you could just give a short introduction to yourself, and then we can start the conversation.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Bharat, also known as Baz to most of my friends. So in terms of my background, I've always worked in finance, predominantly for some quite big financial institutions throughout my career. And approximately 3 years ago, I decided to take the step into having my own business. Stayed in the same industry. So I've got a financial advice firm that I run with my partner. And we're 3 years in. So I think, is 3 years the magic number, or is it 2? You get past 2 years. So I think we've managed to get past the first couple of years. Obviously, currently navigating some pretty tricky times, but it's good. It's good. We're here, and I'm enjoying it.
Perfect. Now, you said you've sort of navigated into it. So from that, I know that obviously your journey didn't start as an entrepreneur. You started in industry first, and I'm sure you built up a lot of your knowledge and skills on that, and then you decided to sort of tread the path on your own. Now, can you give me a little bit of insight into what you were doing before, and then what changed your mind to say, actually, do you know what, I reckon I can tread this path on my own?
Okay, well, I suppose from my point of view, Babik, if I was to compare it to, say, your journey, you became an entrepreneur quite early in your career, if you want to call it that. Deep down inside, I always wanted to have my own business, and I knew that at some point it would happen. I just didn't know when. And I suppose my path naturally took the course where I finished university, started working for financial institutions. Like most people that work for big corporates, you kind of move sideways, upwards. You're going up that career ladder. And 3 years ago, I just felt it was the right time for me to, I suppose, fulfill what I thought was my destiny in running my own business. And haven't looked back since, to be fair. But what I will say is the experience I gained through working for larger organisations has given me a lot of experience in terms of taking those learns and applying them to my small business, because the principles essentially are still the same.
Okay, so when you were sort of in, was it Halifax you were in, or Nationwide, or which?
A few. So the last company I worked for was Nationwide Building Society. I was with them for 7 years.
Yeah.
And probably in my career as a financial advisor, probably my most successful period of doing that role.
Okay.
Which I suppose is just a result of the experiences I learned through doing the role for different companies, bringing it all together, and really achieving a good level of success whilst working for them.
So anyone who's out there, probably there's a lot of people in a similar position to you, so working in a corporate and maybe thinking, I wouldn't mind actually setting up something for myself. So what do you think sort of triggered the first thoughts in you, and then to actually start moving you in that direction? Because having a thought is one thing, but actually turning it into putting the actions behind it to then push you out into the world on your own. First of all, how long was from the first thought to actually jumping? And secondly, what was it that gave you the belief that you could do this?
Okay, well, to answer your first question, Babik, it was 6 months. So from making the decision to literally handing in my notice and the realization that, right, I've got to now earn some money and I don't have a salary coming in. So for someone who's had a salary coming in for the best part of, let me think, 17 years, that's quite a big shift of mindset, and it does play on your mind. And those 6 months, almost like the change curve, it goes from excitement to a bit of denial to then realization that, when you have the oh shit moment where you think, right, I've now got to do it. And I suppose what triggered that in me to do so was, and we'll probably talk about this later, what's really important to me are values and my values. So anything that puts me in a position where I have to compromise those values makes me reassess where I am and the situation I'm in. And, one of the things I'd say to anyone is, never compromise on your values. And if you are, then you have to make a decision. Do you stick with it and be unhappy and accept that you made that decision, or do you do something about it? Now, I've always been quite action orientated. So for me, it was a no-go. I'm not compromising on my values for anyone. I wouldn't do it for my own family, let alone my employer. And that was the trigger in me to say, right, I'm not doing that. I've got two choices now. Do I move to another organisation because of the changes nationwide we're making, which I didn't agree with? And, all of a sudden I'm there for 5 years and the same thing happens again, and I'm forced to reconsider my position and that attack on my values. Or actually, do I now take the risk? Do I feel the time is right, that I've built up enough experience, I've got the right support network behind me, the right safety net in place to make it a success? And the answer to all of those questions were yes. And really, I sat down with my wife, had a chat, and the conclusion was, what you're doing, there's nothing to think about. Now's the time. It's the right time for you to do it. So I'm one of those individuals, and once I make a decision, that's it. It's done. I go with it. It's all or nothing. And that was it. Made that decision. 6 months later, notice was handed in. During that period, it allowed me to do a little bit of background work as to how I'm going to set my business up, name, brand, the other elements that build into it. And then, from there, just went on in. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, of course. And one, from the threads of information you've just given me, I think a couple of things sprung out. First of all, security, making sure you're making the decision at the right time, because obviously it's not just you. You've got a family, you've got a wife, and even though everyone is okay in their own right, it's a decision that you knew you were going to make long term. It wasn't something you're going to jump into lightly and say, okay, actually, I'm just going to do this. And secondly, I think because it's a new path you're treading, there had to be an element where you had an element of time where you're not panicking, where you sort of, a lot of people can jump in, go feet first, and then start panicking within a month if things are not going to work out right, And I remember the conversations we had before you started, and you said, for the first 6 months to a year, I think we'll be fine as long as, certain things happen. And by having that mindset, I think the important thing is I've seen so many business come and go, and they come and go because there's lack of planning initially, but it's more of a whim. Let me just try it out. And so many businesses work because the energy behind it is that. And I think I was probably similar in that position. I had low overheads when I started my business. So I didn't have so much of risk. I didn't have family. I didn't have, I moved back to my parents. So it was all good. When you're in a situation where, like a lot of people, they have more responsibilities, like a mortgage, you have kids, you have family, etc. The decision obviously is a lot more thought out. You have to think of a lot more things. So for you to make it, first of all, it's scary. I know it's scary. So when you actually stepped out of, corporate and you moved into first time into your sort of business as such, how did it feel personally, going away from the business side of things, just in your mind, how did it feel for you?
It was a lot of different emotions, Babik. I went through, again, I'll mention the change curve a few times because I do fundamentally believe in that. That initial excitement, you've got that adrenaline pumping, you gain that bit of momentum, and then you're sat in an office. And all of a sudden, you're on your own and you're looking around thinking, where's everyone else? Where's all my business coming from? Where are these guys that used to feed me all my leads and the business that I did. What do I do now? So, it forces you out of your comfort zone. There's mornings you wake up and you're thinking, what am I doing? But then you always have to go back to that belief and the reason why you did it in the first place. And that why is really important. And you can't forget that, because when times are hard, you've always got to go back to that and remember why you did it. And it almost gives you that extra bit of fuel again to push on and make sure that you're not just sitting there. And I'm not the sort of individual, probably like you, Bharat, where you can just sit there and wait for things to happen. If they're not happening, go out there and make them happen. What were the behaviors? So I used to go back to what were the behaviors I put in place to make myself successful in a corporate environment? How can I take those behaviors and apply them to my business and use those principles and get out there and meet new people and make sure that I'm generating business in the way I want to generate it. And it's weird because, I've always said that a lot of people will focus on sales, but I try and strip that back and say, actually, forget your sales. You've got to find a way of making that happen. And the way to make that happen, in my opinion, is by putting the right behaviors in place, the right actions, and doing things in the right way. Because I fundamentally believe that if you do that, the business follows. And then people ask me, well, how does it follow? I can't give you the answer to that, unfortunately. It just happens. But if you put the right measures in place, follow the behaviors that have always made you successful, then why should it not work in your own self-employed environment? And I've been fortunate enough to take that principle, apply it to a small business, and it's worked. And my view was, well, if it works when I was working for a company, why shouldn't it work when I'm working for myself? Yeah. And it does. So, as long as those behaviors are morally correct, you're doing it for the right reasons, you always think about the reason you set up the business in the first place, then you'll go through the emotions of delight, despair, the excitement. You're down when you don't do a certain bit of business that you thought you would do. But it's the experience of learning how you pull yourself away from that and realign yourself to what your goal is. Because sometimes people get pulled away and they start thinking about other things and they find it hard to realign themselves back to actually how they should be running things and what's always made them successful. So,
anyone sort of listening to this that's thinking about, starting on their own path and moving in that direction, and that are still sort of on the fence, sort of 50-50, what would you say, in your honest opinion, are the reasons you would say yes, but also the reasons you would say no?
Well, look, I'd never personally say. Are you saying if somebody asked me, should I open a business, would I say yes or no?
Fair, no. Because obviously it's not going to be a yes or no fully. It's going to be, You have to understand this about business, which is the pros, and this about running your own business, which is the cons.
Yeah.
Overall, knowing you as a person, I would suggest this, but from what you've now experienced being through your own journey, what would you say were your honest truths in terms of yes, and your honest truths in terms of no, knowing another person?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody, to me, it always comes back to why you're doing it. It always has to be why you're doing it. And, you talk about energy and having the right energy for the business to succeed. And I firmly believe that. But you'll only have the right energy if the reason behind what you're doing is genuine, it's authentic, and it's the right reason. Like you, Babik, a lot of people have come to myself for some help and advice before. And I always say to somebody, look, there's never a right time to do something, but there's always a wrong time.
Yeah.
And you could also say there's never a right reason, but there is always a wrong reason for doing something too. So for me, I would say to that individual, look, what's your reason behind it? What are you doing? Because I firmly believe if that reason is genuinely strong and they really, truly want to work towards that, they can make it a success. They won't have the skill set to do everything in their business. Now, I'm fortunate in that my mind's always been quite financially driven. So for me, planning comes quite easy. Whereas someone who's not had that background, planning might not come easy. So they might have to realize, actually, and I'll say to them, look, you need to pull this person's expertise in and maybe help you in that area. But if I know genuinely you're doing this for the right reasons, then actually it should be a success in theory.
Yeah, cool. Now, something you mentioned when you were setting up your business, you mentioned you talked to your wife and got an input from her, and she was, I know Caroline, and I know her step was positive. If it's right for you, it's right for us. So, you go on what makes you happy. That's the most important thing, right? So,
absolutely.
Your relationship with your wife, how do you think, that makes you the man you are because you have a woman like this beside you?
Yeah. Look, it's probably the most fundamentally important thing. And I don't know whose quote it is. Is it Bill Gates or some? Was it Warren Buffett? One of them, anyway. Said behind every successful man is an even more successful woman.
Shouldn't it be beside as well rather than behind?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that resonates with me now because it's so important, and not just your wife, to have the right support network around you, and the right people giving you the right noises, and knowing when to, pull the reins in and tell you when you need a bit of a dressing down, because occasionally I do need a dressing down. But equally, knowing how to push you, when to push you, and supporting you through that, and having the confidence and the belief, because your confidence and belief does waver. You could be the most confident person in the world, but there will be times when, that comes into question. But having that person behind you to push you and have that belief is massive. It's your foundation. It's absolutely your foundation. And Caroline, for me, is my foundation, as are some other key individuals. And over the years, probably like yourself, Babbitt, you strip away certain people from your life, whether that's consciously or subconsciously, because you want those people around you that are going to bring the best out of you.
Yeah.
And equally, I'd want to bring the best out of them as well. It's a two-way thing. You'd want to bring the best out of each other.
And it's an interesting thing. I'm going to go through our environment and our people, but just coming one more thing in terms of relationships, because you choose someone to be with you. You go into a marriage thinking that this is going to be for good, right? Now, to pick one person, obviously it's not easy, it's tricky, but someone obviously gets through all the hurdles and finds their way through, and you think this person is probably the right person for me. So someone who's sitting here that's in a relationship, maybe with a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or someone that they think maybe I do want to tread the journey of marriage now. What kind of questions do you think they should be asking each other before they decide?
Same questions I would ask with any partnership, and I did this exercise with my business partner that I opened the business with. Is what are your values? If your values are aligned, and I know I keep saying the values thing, but if your values are genuinely aligned, you can make it work. Now, there's always going to be times where you have disagreements, whether that's your wife, like I said, my business partner. But fundamentally, if your values are the same and your beliefs are very similar, then you can make it work. I really do genuinely think you can make it work. So my advice to anyone looking to tread that path is, do you understand what each other's values and beliefs are? Actually, are your values totally different? Are your beliefs totally different? Because if they are, that's harder to repair, because you can paper over those cracks, but those cracks will always be there if they're totally different. Whereas if you've got someone who thinks like you, your values and beliefs are the same, then you can always work with that, even through the tough times, because there will be tough times. That happens to everyone, and it will continue to happen to us. I'd be lying if I said, we haven't been through tough times ourselves. Of course we have, but because we think the same, our values are the same, our beliefs are the same, we've got a solid foundation we can work with, that we can continue to work with. And so anyone who's looking to take that, next step, do you really understand each other to that level? And that's the level, in my opinion, you need to understand each other too.
And stripping everyone away, including your wife and your kids and all your environment, what does self-love mean to you?
I mean, self-love to me is more about self-respect, really appreciating and encourage. I encourage, I suppose I go back to my daughters, I encourage them to be themselves. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to have an opinion. The first person you have to respect is yourself, because if you don't respect yourself and love yourself, nobody else will. And that's, I've not learned that from a young age. That's come from experience. And to me, I suppose that's what it would mean to me.
And investing in yourself to make you the best version of yourself for people around you, right? So if you're strong and you can shine your light, they can shine their light as well, right? So
Absolutely.
To be the best partner, to be the best dad in your eyes. Obviously, everyone's on a journey, and you'll never be the best in terms of, a standard that you're probably going to always set yourself, because we're always growing, we're always on movement, we're always on a journey, right? But if we can at any moment say, I am, with the best intentions I have and with the best knowledge I have at the time, I am being the best version of myself, I think that's all we can do, because we're never going to get, like yourself, I'm always on a journey of growth, listening, surrounding myself with information, with people, with environments that help me grow to be the best person I can be. Because if I'm the best, then the people around me can be the best. And then moving on to something you said earlier, and which I wanted to sort of come back to, is the people around you. Now, what I've noticed even within myself is you have an energy around, I have an energy around me which is always looking to grow. And if I find that the people around me maybe are not serving that growth, so maybe through the conversations, maybe through the mindset, through the attitude, through the voice I hear, I make a conscious decision to say, does this relationship serve me anymore? Okay. And if it doesn't mean I am sort of like just cutting someone off and saying, actually, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, things like that. I just distance myself. I just don't get involved in that, drama. A lot of the time it's drama, right? Because it doesn't serve me anymore. And I then have a space to fill with the people that do serve and, as Helder said, radiate energy, okay? Radiate their energy so you can be the best and they can be the best. And as I've got older, I found that I'm looking for those type of people. Initially when I started on this journey, there was only a few, if none, I would say. Okay. And as I then started sharing and actually growing myself, I found that people started turning up. People started having conversation, and then I felt more confident to have conversation with the people that were already around me. And if those conversations were falling on deaf ears or almost like a one-way conversation, I said, okay, I need to now find, my community, my tribe, and fill my space, my time with those people. Now, I know that's important to you as well, because you're on this same sort of trajectory and same mindset. What would you have an input to the people that are listening out there?
Yeah, so to be fair, Malik, everything you said is spot on. And you said something along the lines of, you tried to find the best people. Actually, and I know you believe in this, is the law of attraction. If you're radiating that energy, to use your phrase, you will find that energy will come towards you. You won't have to find those people will find you. And all of a sudden you're building the right type of people around you, but you've got to have that energy first and have that mindset and that thought process, and it will just happen. I know I've said that a few times, things will just happen, but they do, because you're attracting that around you. And naturally, like you said, whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, you do distance yourself from negative energy that doesn't add any value. And that's not selfish, because, for those people that I distance myself from, if eventually they're ready to have that positive energy, I'll be there for them. There's no shadow of a doubt. I'll be there to give them a helping hand. But, what I've come to realize in life is not everyone's on the same path at the same time at that moment in time that you are.
Yeah.
So, for me, if you can, there's a lot of sayings out there. You look at social media, everyone's got a saying, everyone's got like an affirmation, everyone's got this, but it's one word reading it, it's another word. Sorry, not another word. It's one thing reading an affirmation. It's another thing actually fulfilling it and doing it. And you can read as many self-help books as you want, but it makes no difference unless you put that into action. So my advice to those people is put that into action. If you're reading it for a reason. You feel like it's needed at that particular point in your life, whatever it may be, for whatever reason. But don't just read it, do it. Yeah. Actions absolutely are way more important than the words you're reading or whatever you're soaking in, and you have to display that. And once you start displaying those actions, then actually you'll find that energy and the people with that energy gravitate towards you anyway.
And something that for myself, over the years, and especially now, having the perspective I do over, as you get older, I sense people's energy more than I do hear their words. I see their actions more than I hear the voice that's coming out of their mouth. And to me, actions have spoken louder than words for a long time. And if someone says, someone can say they're healthy, but if you're healthy, don't tell me, show me. You're eating well, you're going to the gym, you're putting these practices into place. And a lot of it's in the dark. And what I mean by that is they're doing it without anyone knowing. It's like, when you get up in the morning, you get up at 5:30, you go to the gym or you go out for a run and you come back and you prepare your meal and you get that ready for the day, and then you do some meditation, you do prayers or whatever you do to build yourself up to be the best person you can be. But no one knows apart from the close people around you, and you don't have to. A lot of the time, you don't say anything; they ask you. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And those are the things that I think, for me, I feel now, and I sense them with the people around me, that these people are, even like yourself. I know you take fitness very, to your heart. It's something that's important to you. And there's a habit that you have about, before the gym's closed, leaving early and stuff. So if you can just go into that a little bit, things that you do that not many people know about, or you do in the dark, because you don't need anyone to know that's for you.
Yeah, so for me, it is all about that mind-body connection, and I do firmly 100% believe that you to have a healthy body, have a healthy mind. The two go together. You can't have one without the other, in my opinion. The two have to be together. So for me, it's important to I wake up when the gyms were open at 4:45. I make a decision to wake up at 4:45 in the morning. Why? Because I want to go there. I want to have a workout. It's my time to gather my thoughts before the day starts, almost to plan my day out. I'm the sort of guy that likes to go in the gym but keep myself to myself. I'm not there to have a conversation with anyone, not in a selfish way, because I recognise it's my it's almost that energy for me in the morning to wake me up, clear my mind, have my thoughts, come back home. Now the reason I do it so early is because for me it's valuable to spend time with my daughters. So the sacrifice, or the decision I make, is, well, I sacrifice some of my sleep so that I can do that, because that's important to me too, to then be able to spend time in the morning with my daughters, in the evening when they come back from school and nursery, and spend time with them, read a book with them, do their homework with them. But to allow me to do that, I've got to do that part. In and around that, obviously, I'm doing my business. You're forever planning. You know how it is to run a business. You never quite switch off. And that for me just sets me up for the day. But you've got to make those decisions. So when people tell me I haven't got time, my answer to them is, you have got time. It's just not a priority. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But then people work in different ways. I understand what makes me tick and what makes me perform to my best levels. And for me to perform at my best levels, I need that routine of exercise in the morning, clear my thoughts, start the day, go through the day, spend time with my family, because that's important to me. And if I'm getting that, then I feel that brings the best out of me.
Yeah. And it creates a balance in your life, right? Because your elements and the segments of your life are made up by these things that are important to you, and everything needs to have its own little energy input into it for itself for it to work. And exactly what you said there about, I don't have time. Not, those words need to change. I choose not to have time, or I don't want to have time. Not I don't have time. No one has time for anything. We make the time, or we choose to have the time. And like you said, if you want to get up early, you need to go to bed early, because sleep is important as well, right? So that rest, and you get up. And, like I said, one thing I consciously did a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago now, decided that in the morning I'm not going to switch my phone on, because I found that it was pulling me away and my mind it wasn't serving me at that time. So getting up in the morning at 5:30, going down, having a pint of water, training every day. So whether that be, like in the house, going for a run, whatever it is, doing something, coming back, making lunch, for both of us. And then the kids get up, getting them ready, doing stuff with them, dropping them to school, coming back, playing piano, reading, meditating, and then actually leaving the house and then switching my phone on. I found that for me, that structure, first of all, set me up for, like you said, my time to be the best version for me. That's the strength I need to invest in myself, to say, this is how I'm going to be the best for the people around me. Once I had my time, I knew I'm becoming stronger. I can then say my whole day I know will go well, irrespective of what it throws at me, because I've already built a foundation in the morning that will
Yeah.
serve me all day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, the morning is really important. And I hope a lot of people, and I know a lot of people listening, some people are night owls, some people are, morning. I'm definitely morning. I'll get up irrespective of what day it is. Some people work at night, and that's fine, whatever works for you. But make that time to create the space to invest in yourself. Even though you have so many facets around you, you need the oxygen for yourself, for others to breathe around you as well. Would you say that is more or less what you think?
Well, 100%, Bhavik. That time to clear your mind in the morning is essential. Because I find that if I put myself in a good place, actually everyone around me is in a good place too. Because, like you said, that conscious decision you made to not check emails, etc., is absolutely the right one. Because just doing that one action, all of a sudden, takes you away from that intimate moment with your children, where you just want to dedicate that time to them. And they could be asking you a question like, Daddy, I need to do this, but your mind's elsewhere because you're thinking about that email you received first thing from that client, and you need to action that. And if you're pulled away from that moment with your child, then all of a sudden it affects your relationship with them. So clearing your head in the morning, being able to then dedicate that time to them is, for me, absolutely key. It's the best piece of advice I'd give to anyone. Even now, I mean, the lockdown has been interesting because obviously I can't wake up and go to the gym. That was my time away. That was my time to do all that and do a bit of reflecting and get myself set up. So, first week or two, you kind of have a little bit of a line, because waking up at 4:45 every day, you think, okay, I can have a little bit of a line. But then what I found was I'd come downstairs, have a workout, but the kids would be running around me. So all of a sudden my time's gone.
Yeah.
So then I'm thinking, right, I've had no time. And I found at the end of that week, my head was all over the place, which was affecting the environment in my house, because I was getting agitated. Me being agitated was passing on to my children, obviously passing on to my wife, and all of a sudden everyone was agitated. So what I had to do was sort of step back and think, right, what am I doing here? I need to go back to what I've always done. So what I now do, even though I'm on lockdown, before everyone wakes up, I'll still wake up, albeit not at 4:45. I'll wake up at 6. Okay, which in lockdown people think, why are you doing that? But the reason I'm doing it is because I can then spend an hour and a half downstairs doing what I did, not in the gym, doing what I did, taking myself away, getting my mind ready, having a workout, and making sure that by the time my family come downstairs, I'm in a good place. The energy's positive, and everyone then feels the benefit of that throughout the day, including myself.
Yeah.
And like you said, then whatever happens, you can have a good day, and generally you do. There's always going to be a curveball, obviously, but you're better equipped to deal with it having had that time in the morning.
And one thing I read only a couple of days ago is that if you want to make an investment, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And I fully agree with that. Now, coming back to investments, obviously you're a money man, okay?
Yeah.
You deal with money day in, day out, right? And that's an energy source which right now is at forefront a lot of people's mind. There's a lot of worry, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of uncertainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like yourself, there's a lot of people that have set themselves up okay, that things, they've still got time to not worry, not panic, and things in place. So what kind of advice would you give people right now, about money, not just about right now, but about little things you could do that will help you sort of going forward and maybe out of this lockdown, maybe things they should be thinking about?
Well, I think, to be honest, Bobby, whether it's the current situation or not, the fundamentals have always been the same. Mm-hmm. to running your life financially in a stable and successful way. And that is the number one golden rule is, have you got a contingency? Whether you're running a business or running your personal funds, do you have contingencies in place? Or are you just living for the moment? Are you living on credit and just spending, for every pound you're earning, you're spending 2? Because that's the environment not only people here, but people globally have got themselves into over the last 20 years. Credit's been cheap, credit's been easy to obtain, and people have just thought, okay, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, and I'll worry about how I'm going to pay it back later. Mm. But fundamentally, when you're planning for yourself, you always need to think about, well, if I've got X amount of income coming in, my first rule is, well, try and save at least 30% of it, as a minimum, because one day that 30% will be needed. You don't know when that day is going to be, but that day will absolutely come.
Yeah.
So did people expect this to come, and were they best equipped for it? A lot of people, unfortunately, not. Because I've seen people's finances. People have walked into my office and you just think, how have you got yourself into this position? But they've been unfortunate in the sense that, let me take that back a step. We've been fortunate in the sense that we've grown up in an environment with parents that have drilled it into us.
Yeah.
So it's been actually the norm to live your life that way, whereas a lot of people don't have the benefit of that. So my advice to people now, going back to your question and point, would be, look, a mistake is only a mistake if you don't learn from it. So if you're finding that you're in financial difficulty, you've then got to do something about it. So when you are in a position where you're earning money again, learn from it. When you get in that income, put 30% of it aside, because we don't know what the future will hold. And once you can put that money aside and watch it grow and be there for in the background, whatever else then you start to build upon that. That's your foundation. We talk about, like, my wife, etc. That's your foundation to your finances. Always have an emergency in a backup. Once you've got that, then you can start to plan around it. But that's the lesson and the learn I give to anyone at the moment. That, look, make sure you're doing that. And if you haven't done it, when you're in a position to do it, absolutely do it.
And there's so many people which, not in my immediate circle, but I hear about, which is quite alien for me, but I know it's real. Okay, one paycheck be away from being homeless, right? Because all their money is allocated. So rather than thinking, okay, rather than spending £50 on a phone and £600 on a car every month, I can buy a second-hand car and I can get a SIM-free phone with a second-hand phone on eBay and use that and save that monthly, and eventually that'll add up, And I found that it's the small steps, because it's the mindset it takes to have the small steps which allow the big steps to happen. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And, that's the effects of compounding. You won't see the effects of compounding straight away, but you'll feel the effects of compounding in a positive way over time, and suddenly you'll see that happen. So you might have to make some short-term sacrifices. Everyone does. I'm having to at the moment. I don't think anyone's in a position where you haven't made some sort of short-term sacrifice. But I've made that consciously to continue to be able to save how much I'm saving, to make sure that foundation still remains in place. And the golden rule would be, if you weren't working today and your wife wasn't working today, how long could you survive for? Because you should be able to survive for 2 years, in my opinion. If you can survive for 2 years, you've got enough there, because one day, once you've got that behind you, you can then go back to having that £50 phone, that £600 car, because if things went wrong, you would be able to still afford to do that. Now, I'm not saying that's right to do that. I'm not. But you need to have the foundation in place to cover that should things go Pete Tom like they have done at the moment, and then come back to that later. But if it means in the short term having to make sacrifices, make them. And hopefully people are learning that now and thinking, right, when things do start to improve, even if I don't go back to the job I've got, let me create an opportunity or go for other jobs and make sure that when that income comes in, I'm doing that. I'm making some cutbacks to build up that foundation to make sure if this ever happens again, because I think it will at some point in the future, I'm better equipped to deal with it. And
whether it's looking for another job, whether it's treading your own path, whether it's thinking, I think, because there's a pool, there's a swimming pool, which is where all the jobs are, and everyone is looking in that same pool, right? But I've always said everyone has a skill set within them. Everyone has something they're good at. Even if you don't think it is, someone else will tell you. You ask someone else, what am I good at? They'll tell you, right? And then think, can I use this skill somehow to help someone else? Because all a business is that. It's me using my skills to help someone else that maybe doesn't want to do it, doesn't know how to do it, or has no interest in doing it. And that is the essentials of any business. It's, Baz helps people with money because, again, he has an experience, a mindset about that. And someone else may not to the depth he has, so they pay him to do that. I have an experience in, electronics, and those electronics people pay me to give them service. Do you understand? But we weren't born with any of these things. We learned these. And if this time when we've taken out, upskill yourself, because I would say that's probably the most important thing, investing in yourself, and that investing time, learning something you enjoy, learn something you like, and then watch other people that are doing it. There's so much now. When I started my business 20 years ago, there was no Google, there was no YouTube, there was yellow pages, a fax machine, and a shop. Do you know what I mean? And it sounds like, I know I don't look that old, but that was the truth. That was the way you had a business, unless you sort of cold call people and things like that. And we've gone whole height to now, just with what we're doing now, there's a business there. Do you understand? So there's so much more energy and so much more. If we just used our brain and think, actually, do you know what? I'm actually quite good at this, and other people have told me this. How can I shape this into something? Whether that's fear, whether that's no self-belief, whether that's the voices around you saying it's not possible, or the fear that's keeping you in your box, it is. You just need to invest in yourself, like I said. Be around people that will say yes to you, not pull you down. And thirdly, is say it is possible, because everything's possible when you just say, I want to do this. Your brain finds a way. In subconsciously, your brain will find a way. Would you say that is correct?
Yeah, definitely, Babik. I think going back to your point about everyone is good at something. Everyone has some sort of strength, and they're good at something. But like you said, you need the people around you, the right people, to tell you what that is. You've got to want to know what that is in the first place, if I'm honest. So you talk about self-investment, but you've got to want to do that before you actually do it. So before you even start investing in yourself, actually find out what you're good at. What is your strength? What do other people see as your strengths? And if you're going to invest in yourself, build on that strength. Because if it's something you're good at it because you probably enjoy it. If it's something you enjoy, it's probably something you're passionate about. If it's something you're passionate about, it's something you will definitely make a success. Every successful business, sports star person have been so good at it because they have a passion for what they do, and they're good at it for that reason. So find out what it is you're good at. Use the people around you to tell you what you're good at, and then self-invest in those areas to build on that strength and build on what you're good at and make it even stronger. Because if you've got something you're good at and you can make it even stronger, in my opinion, it becomes unbreakable. If it becomes unbreakable, then all of a sudden you have a business or an idea or something you can do for people, which actually nobody can take away from you, because you built up so much, like I said, positivity, energy around it. It will happen.
Yeah. So, moving on from there, what do you think is missing in your life right now?
Football. Football, mate. I need football back, mate. That's what I need. No, on a serious note, Babik, you know what? I've never ever looked at, I've never ever questioned that. I never have, because, and I'll tell you why, because I think too many people look at what they haven't got rather than appreciating what they have got. It's easy to see what you haven't got, but then all of a sudden, if you just take a step back and look around you, and if you're unhappy, then obviously you need to make changes. But if you're happy and you're content, then I look around me and think, actually, you know what? I've got, a wife, 2 beautiful children, the right people around me, a business. I don't actually want anything else. For me, it's all about, rather than looking at what you're missing, it's looking at what you've got and appreciating what you've got. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of flipping that on his head, because for me, you'll always miss people in your life that are no longer here. Okay, that's a different type of missing. Okay, but I genuinely say, for me, nothing's missing at the moment. Even lockdown, the first few weeks, I thought I was missing the gym. I thought I was missing football. But you quickly rewire your brain. Because it's been programmed. It's been programmed to say, I need football to watch football on a Saturday. I need to be at the gym. Actually, it's more of a want than a need, because you can quickly rewire your brain to fill it with other things that are around you at that moment in your life, to be grateful for, rather than missing the things that you were having, if that makes sense. And right now is a really good time to ask that question, because I'm sure people say, I miss the pub, I miss going. Actually, I do miss just going down the pub with my friends, if I'm honest. Just having some time away, mate. Some time away from the kids all day. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because I think, like you mentioned, it's our ability to adapt to environment and our circumstances, which will always be the cornerstone of any success in terms of your life and my life. The ability to adapt. I think so many people don't put faith in their own ability to adapt. We've all been in situations when life is pretty shit. Certain things can happen to us. Certain things that come sort of left field, and you're like, wow, I didn't even see that coming. Or maybe it's been coming and you've been ignoring it. You've been, head in the sand, and then suddenly you have to deal with it. And for me, I've been quite open. There's a lot of time in my life, 8 to 10 years ago, where I was completely broken behind the mask, behind the veneer of a good life, and building myself up from those moments in terms of investing myself, my health, my mindset, everything had to change. And it took a good amount of time for that to happen. But I knew that, first of all, I was not going to go to a doctor. I was not going to go medicine. I was just going to listen, learn, and grow. Listen, learn, and grow. And that's exactly what happened. To me sitting here having a conversation with you, to have the confidence to have this conversation and be open and honest about my journey, because I think that is, first of all, can help a lot of people, but secondly, it's the truth, and it's my truth, and I have nothing to hide about that. Do you know what I mean? And the more I think, I look at those painful moments, they're the times which have shaped me. It's almost taken a crisis to shift me, to create a catalyst. A lot of people don't need a crisis, but I almost, being an entrepreneur and being in the mindset of always being resourceful, I think there was a point where it needed to be, now you need to fucking change, because it's not going to happen the way you're doing it. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect something different to happen. Yep. And that's exactly what I was doing. I just have to work hard. I just have to work hard. Just have to work hard. And now everything else was dropping away, and it was just getting worse. And then that catalyst was done, and then everything changed. So are there any times of that you could share that being maybe painful or traumatic for you, that have shaped your life and your thinking to the person you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely pinpoint it to 2 occasions in my life. The first one being my dad passing away. That was a big thing for me, because he was the biggest influence in my life in terms of where I am today, the person I am, the way I think, and the lessons he taught me. And that changed me massively. And from that moment on, I really took my journey. That was my crisis point, similar to use your words. That really made me step back and think about who I am and what's important to me. The direction I'm traveling in. Is it the direction I want to travel in? Now, am I an autopilot? Which I probably was. Is this the life I want? And that did have a big impact on my life, which was now 8 years ago, actually. And I can pinpoint it to that 8 years as to how my mind started to change. That's when actually I started looking at the self-help books, and going back to the point I made earlier about people reading quotes. You can read quotes, but it's the actions that you take after them that are the key, really. And that's when I started to take a lot of actions after reading a lot of books that I was doing at the time, that really helped me. And to this day, it has a big influence in my life. And the second time for me was more of definitely a joyful experience. That was the birth of my daughter, and my first daughter especially, because all of a sudden and you can probably relate to this, your priorities and your focus shifts, and it does make you think about what's important to me. Going back to my business, the reason I set it up 3 years ago was my why was that I wanted to spend more time with my family. I wanted more time with my daughters. I wanted to have an environment where I'm not working strict hours. I have to ask the permission of someone else if I can, collect my daughter from school or do this and do that. I want to be able to go and collect my daughter. I want to be able to dictate my own terms and run my life in the way I want to run it. And that was my big why, and that's why I did it. And those were my primary reasons behind it. And both of those events have had a key influence in my decision making and where I am today.
So what, in terms of, you've over life, we gain skills, we learn a lot from people around us. But what skills do you think you still need to learn, master, or grow to become a better version of yourself?
Patience. I think anyone would probably tell you that knows me well. I'm a lot more patient than I was. Having children,
You have to be.
you have to be. There is no choice. Yeah, you develop patience. Could I be more patient? Absolutely, yes. Patience is probably the one thing that I find the most difficult. And if I strip that back to why I find it the most difficult, and I've done this conversation with my wife, and I suppose some of the unfair expectations I put on my daughter, because there's homeschooling at the moment. We had this conversation on the phone. And when they can't do something straight away, I'm like, why? Do it. But then I've got to almost understand that this is a 5-year-old. I need to speak to them and understand that they're not quite there yet. But it's that patience, and my intentions behind it are good, because my intentions are, look, I want the best of them. But equally, the patience within myself is, I want the best in me and what I do, and I become impatient when I can't get that. And the art of patience, I think, is massive. I haven't mastered it yet. Absolutely not. I hope that by the time I'm no longer here, I will have done. But it's a slow process, a very slow one at the moment.
It's funny you use patience, because on previous episodes I've talked about this, and that is my superpower. So when someone says, what is your superpower? Mine is patience. Like I said, I've learned that skill, and I've mastered it in terms of, I've seen what it's done for my life, and I've been in your boat. I've been in the position where I thought of an idea today and I want to start yesterday. I just need to get it going. I need to get it moving. There was no planning. There was no thought. Just get it going, get it going. And that's why so many ideas started and died, because there's no thought behind it, right? But now, over time, what I've realized is people overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate what they can do in a long time, right? So in 5 years, underestimate them, but in 6 months, overestimate what they can do, right? And what excites me now is things that are gonna take time. So when someone says to me, let's do this, it'll take 3 months to start, I'm like, bro, I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is, like, I started playing the piano 3 years ago, because I know it'll probably take me 20 years to become even any good that I can actually feel comfortable playing. And that's what excites me. When someone talks about my health journey, I want to live to over 100, 106 to be precise. That's what age I want to live to. So therefore, my health goals are 60-year health goals. It means, you just eat well, exercise, stay on that path. You have your days off, you go out on a night out, you have a Saturday night, you get a pizza, whatever, but you're on it the next day, and you're on it for, the long term. And that's where I know I can build my life and hopefully share that energy around me. So I'm very patient with my kids, and my wife is a little bit less impatient, but she's learning that patience as well. And that serves me really well. So talking about superpowers, what do you think yours are?
Genuinely, Babak, I don't know.
I can see one in you though.
I hope, and I've never thought about that, if I'm honest. I hope it can be bringing the best out of people.
Yeah.
I would consider that to be one of my strengths. It always was when I was working in corporate environments and coaching and helping people. Even with my friends and family, I hope I'm in a position where I'm able to bring the best out of them and help them excel.
And I think another ability you have is you take actions and words for what they are, as opposed to, letting them sit in your head. Because I know we've had conversations where we're quite frank with each other, and you will accept it and say, okay, that's fine. Rather than saying, I'm now not going to talk to you because I don't like what you said to me. It's actually, what? I think you're right, or maybe you're not right because of this. And that's it, you move on. And you don't hold on too much. You just take it in. Is it going to help me? Yes, it is. If it's not, I'll leave that and move on. And you don't let it sit in your head, and you don't let it marinate, because it doesn't serve you doing that and going to those anxious moments and stuff. And I think that's, again, a good skill that, people around you know about you, and they can see that in you. And I think, I look at you and think, that's why I like you. That's why I like having conversation with you, because we can be open and honest, and it's not going to hurt you or affect you in that way.
Yeah, fair enough, Babak. I appreciate that. And I think it's important then and that's why, like you say, you have those people around you that you can have those conversations with, and your troop, your tribe, whatever you want to call them. You narrow it down to that. And I remember back to college when, it was all a popularity contest. How many, how many people do I know? And how many people will know me or whatever? And now I can count on one hand, maybe two hands, those people to be able to have those conversations with and actually respect the opinion of and take it for what it is. And people will say things to you that you don't necessarily like, but those people that you've got around you will be honest and they'll be doing it in your best interest because you've selected to have them there for that reason.
And the intention with what they're saying it, so it means more. When you don't know the intention of where things are coming from, and this is what sort of gripes me about a lot of stuff that's going on publicly right now. So this whole thing about PC, politically correct, you can't say certain things, you can say certain things. But for me, it's always been about intention. If someone sent me a message and I know that person, I know the intention they're sending to me, I know whether it's going to be a humorous one or whether it's, offensive or something like that, because I know the intention behind it. And I can send you something and Bav is like this, so therefore that means this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just the words you're reading, and this is the contention in religion, I think, when you're just reading a book and you don't know how it's been written, it's just words on the page. That's only 10% of the communication, right? You don't know how it's been said or what the intention was behind writing it. Your interpretation is going to be completely different to someone else is reading it, right? So when that interpretation is that I know the intention of the words and I know it's not meant to harm anyone, I will take it lightly. But if it then comes across that I know the intention was to harm me, therefore I can deal with it, I know that I can deal with it in a certain different way. But without that intention, I think it's difficult with anything.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I agree. You need to know the intention behind it. And sometimes you won't, but you've got to know when to just let it go.
Let it go.
And think whatever. That is my you can ask Caroline how many times I said that. I'll be like, yeah, whatever, move on, get on with it.
I choose to not give it energy, right? I'm just gonna let it go, right?
Yeah.
So what book are you reading at the moment?
Me, I'm reading a book called The Source by an author called Tara Swart. I don't know if it's Swart or Swart. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's actually a book my wife read, and she gave out to all the members in her team because it resonated particularly well with her. So I know she likes it. I generally probably will myself. And actually, it's quite interesting. A lot of what we've talked about is in there. It talks about, I suppose, getting to the source of I'm not that far into it, to be fair, but it talks about affirmations, something we've mentioned, understanding yourself, being confident in yourself, not being afraid to do what you want to do, but where that all actually comes from deep down inside. And like, we've not really mentioned it too much, but the key to whatever you do is understanding yourself first. You have to understand yourself, your triggers, what makes you happy, what doesn't make you happy, to then be able to shape your life in the way you want it to be. So I'm reading that at the moment. Actually, interestingly, there's a program I'm watching at the moment, which is really quite good. I'm pretty sure most people are watching it, but it's called The Last Dance. It's on Netflix, but it's about Michael Jordan and his I don't think it was his last season in the NBA, but it's a 10-part series and it's 6 episodes in. But it's brilliant because he talks about all of this. What does success mean? What does success look like? When people look at successful people, they see, like you say, they see the veneer. They see, for Jordan, the nice cars, the big house, but they don't see the hard work, the graft, the vulnerabilities, the hard work, the commitment, the dedication, the passion, everything that goes into it to do that. But more importantly, the setbacks that happen along the way to make them the person they are and to become the person they are, and how they then deal with setbacks further into their career. And how they handle that and how they move on. So the series, from that perspective, and I'd recommend you watch it, is great. Because at first I watched it as a sports series because I'm a big Michael Jordan fan. And all of a sudden you start to realize actually that's what it's taking you through, because I understand that. I've seen it. I've seen my journey go through that, obviously, albeit not to the levels of success he had, but even to the point where we talked about having the right people around you. So, I didn't know this until I watched the program. Early on in his life, when he signed his trainer deal with Nike, originally he was adamant he didn't want to be with Nike, and he said, I want to be with Adidas. But his mum and his dad, i.e. the right people around you to speak sense to you, to give you the right advice and to guide you in the right way. We said to him, look, no, you need to go and speak tonight and just see what they have to say, because he was single-minded. That's what makes him successful, his single-mindedness and that focus on that drive to say, right, I'm going to be the best and this is how I'm going to do it. But sometimes the issue with that is you don't listen to the people around you when you should be, especially the right people. So on the back of that, he was adamant, Adidas all the way. Because in those days, apparently Nike was known for doing running shoes, not basketball shoes.
Right.
And it was through listening to his mum and his dad, he went to Nike, signed the deal with Nike, and now that Air Jordan brand is probably the most recognizable brand globally.
Yes.
Okay, you could go anywhere in the world. You could go to remote parts of Africa. They will know who Michael Jordan is, and they will probably want a pair of Air Jordan. Yeah. Now, had he not listened to those people, the right people in his life, and gone to the meeting with Nike, and actually had to listen to what they said, who said to him, look, we're going to dedicate a whole shoe to you. We're going to make a shoe especially for you. He wouldn't have the money he has there. I mean, he's earned everything he's earned from the shoes, not from his career, not from anything else, from his shoes. So that one decision he made in his life to listen to the right people around him, I mean, that's just one example, but there's so many in there about his setbacks, how he responded, how he propelled himself to be the best at what he is. Yeah. So to anyone listening to this, you talked about what you read. Yeah, read books, but watch that, because it's brilliant. It's six episodes in. There's 10 in total. I can't wait for the next 4 to come out, because honestly, it's brilliant.
And I think one small point that you miss in that list of things that you don't see is the sacrifices someone makes.
Oh, and that's the biggest thing, because funny enough, the last episode showed the sacrifices, because it had him there in his hotel room saying, this is my life. I can't go out that hotel room door, because as soon as I go out there, it's a service.
Yeah.
And people just mob him. So he goes, the only peace and quiet I have is this room. I'm sitting in a hotel room and you're sitting there smoking a cigar saying, this is my time. And he goes, and I value it, because he goes, as soon as I step out, but that's what he's had to sacrifice. And you appreciate that. And
it's like you said, all people are seeing is the veneer, the last 1% of what's happening, right?
Yeah. And the records, the championships, everything else.
And the money and the fame and the Instagram likes and all this, right? But is one, I think, reading Steven Gerrard book, I know you're a big Liverpool fan like me, and he said, I wanted to go out and play in the street with my friends, but I had to go training. I wanted to spend after days school going to town or what, messing about with them, but training was more important. And I missed so many things with my friends and so many birthday parties that they were having and things like this, because I chose training above that. And there's some of those things I missed that then made almost like I had no friends, because there's only 2 people that actually spent time with me at school, because I wasn't doing anything else with them. They're still my friends today. And it's those sacrifices that created me as a person. And it's that journey of who you become. And it's like, not everyone is meant to be a billionaire, because not everyone can change their life and become the person and the mindset to hold that without killing them. It's like the analogy of giving a 17-year-old the keys to a Ferrari. You either can kill someone else, you can kill yourself, because you don't have the experience to drive on these things, right?
Yeah.
Just like that. And it's the same with money, right? Everything is a slow burn process to build yourself up. That's why most lottery winners are broke. And even worse, right? From having it to not having it. Because they don't have the training or the thought and the people around them to build them up into this sort of, give them the experience to deal with such an energy. So, sometimes be careful what you wish for, is what I say. Is that
definitely.
So as we sort of approach the end of our conversation, Baz, I could talk to you for ages, because I know we have these conversations when we've been away. It's been days and days of just talk. So there's a couple of last points and a couple of last things I want to talk to you about, just so that people get a real insight into you as a person. So you've reached the end of your days now. You've done everything you want to do. You're 250 years old, or however you want to be, and you're strong till your last days. But now you're sort of sitting in your bed or sitting in your chair, or whatever you want to be. You've got all the people around you, and you've got the last ounce of energy, not to speak, but just to write 3 words. Those 3 words have resonated with you today, and you think they will be. And you want other people to take these on, maybe practice them a little bit more to help them in their lives, what do you think those 3 words will be for you?
The first one would be work hard. You know, nothing in life, or nothing good in life, comes easy. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. So work hard. Be grateful for what you have at every point in your life. You know, from a young age to the very last breath you take. You know, be grateful. And I genuinely think that leads to then probably my last one, which is happiness. I think happiness is important. Everyone's definition of happiness is different. Know what makes you happy and be happy, and I suppose that is being content as well. And if, for me, I can take my very last breath and be content with what I've got at that moment in my life, I think that for me will be the biggest achievement I can have, to be honest.
And something you said there on your last point about being happy, no one can make you happy, you choose to be happy, right?
Yep. And that's right, because, you know, if you're unhappy, and going back to the book you asked me about, what that I was reading about, the author used her real life example of being in an unhappy marriage, and she then didn't have the strength to do anything about it, but made a decision, I need to. So with anything in life, guys, you know, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, if you're not happy about it, it's your choice. You're choosing to be unhappy. You're choosing to stay in that job, in that relationship. Whatever the situation may be. So make a choice, make a change. What's the worst that can happen?
100%.
You know, what will be. You know, just be happy within. You know, you've got to be happy within yourself.
I fully agreed. And so, one more question I have for you. I've obtained a microphone, and that microphone is plugged into every single person in this world. That's 7.58 billion people, right?
Yeah.
They can all hear you. They all understand the language you're speaking. They're all awake, and they're actively listening to the words you're saying. Okay, so I can afford you 30 seconds to speak, and those 30 seconds, I want you to pass a message to the world which you believe would be helpful for everyone that's listening.
I think number one, understand yourself. Understand who you are as a person. Understand what your strengths are, what makes you happy, and go out there and try and make a difference to people's lives, whether it's in a small way, whether it's in a major way. You know, do what you can to make a difference, but whatever you're doing, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, be passionate about it, and making sure it makes you happy at the end of the day. And have that self-belief that you can. One thing I was taught from a young age is, if somebody else can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
So always have that self-belief that whatever your goal is, whatever your aim is, whatever difference you're looking to make, you can absolutely make it happen. You just need to go out there and do it for yourself.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Baz. Thank you for your time this evening. Taking you away from your lovely wife and your kids. Say hello to Caroline for me.
No problem. It's all right. I didn't have to do the bedtime routine, so you don't
always a silver lining, right?
Always a positive, mate. Always a positive.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hook up Baz's details in the show notes. If you do want to talk about anything, you can message him. I'll put all his details out there for you. This is the end of this podcast. Just a quick message I'd like to share with you. In life, big energy leads to big thinking. Big thinking leads to big ideas. Big ideas lead to big actions. Big actions lead to a big life. So until the next episode, think big. Thank you. See you later.
I'm just not going to stop. I'll take it. It doesn't. If it means that after this pandemic, I have to start from zero, go back. Whatever happens, like, I know I've got all the tools to run. I've got all the tools to run any business, more or less.